Hey y'all, welcome back to the community. Well, it is your host, Anna Ayobiojo. I'm so excited, y'all. It feels so it feels good. It feels good to be back in the groove of things. It does feel a little weird. Like every time I have to set up, I'm like, it's like I haven't been doing this for a while. So it doesn't feel, it feels like I have to be intentional again. That's what it feels like. But I'm excited nonetheless. Another episode, our second episode of this life update. Um, and last week we talked about some of the things that I struggled with, am struggling with, and sort of navigating right now. And it was a huge emphasis on grief and losing my mom and losing a dear friend of ours, and um, life not being quite what we thought it was going to be. Talking about being vulnerable and being transparent, and really bringing it back to the basics of what our community is all about. There are a ton of communities that you're a part of. There's a ton of communities that I'm a part of, and I pride myself in wanting to create a safe space for us to talk about the hard things, um, even if it is myself. Like I'm talking about the hard things that I'm dealing with. Like we're not here to fake the funk. Like there are a lot of different podcasts that will be about learning and growing and um, in one area and sort of teaching you um, about finances or how to create a morning routine. You name it, there's a bunch of spaces. And I'm here for all of them. And I'm hopeful that we can create that space, that we can teach and grow together and all those things, but that it's rooted in being real and being authentic, that you know that you can come here and be yourself. You do not have to pretend, that you can just be all that you are right now while you're striving to be who God created you to be. You know what I mean? And so really taking it back to the basics, um, starting with myself, bringing myself on as a first guest and talking about all the things. Y'all, I had such a vulnerability hangover after I recorded that first episode, because it was really real. It was really raw. I shared a lot, and afterwards you're like, when you share and you're like, oh my God, like you just expose yourself and you put all the things out there. And when you do that, there is room for people to criticize, for people to judge and all the things. And in that space of that vulnerability, quote unquote, hangover, is really an opportunity to be like, all right, God, I shared all the things. May it direct people back to you. May it help someone. May it strengthen someone. May it encourage someone. May it inspire someone, as opposed to letting the enemy be in that moment. Like, nobody even cares about your story. Why are you sharing that? There you go, sharing too much. Like, nobody asked you for all that. Like, what voice are you going to give power to? And so I felt the feels like sharing all the things. And I knew that I was on the right track, because I knew that God is going to use that. Like, I'm not the only one struggling. That's always my goal. Even when I shared my story, when I wrote my book, it was my goal for people to not feel alone, because I know I wasn't the only one struggling with severe depression, PTSD, and going through the motions as though I was okay. And so that's always my goal, is for people to feel um, that they're not the only ones, that they're not alone. And I think grief really is one of those things, and not everybody feels comfortable, and that's okay. um because for some people, grief really, um they're able to navigate it a little bit differently. Like, I remember seeing people that lost their parents, and they kept moving forward, um and showing up in social media and showing up in their business and showing up in different ways in life. And I was like, what's wrong with me that I can't, like, I couldn't do that? Like, I literally just stop, and it rocks me to my core. And there's no perfect way to grieve. There's no, you know what I mean? Everybody's has a very individual journey, but I know for those that had a rough time, or are having a rough time like I had, and am continuing to navigate, that it can be kind of challenging, because those thoughts, I'm going to stay here for just a little bit, because I feel like for the people that are grieving, it can feel, the people that are grieving in a heavy way, it can feel like such a lonely place. Like I remember feeling like there is nobody that understands the pain that I'm feeling. Nobody. You can tell me all you want that with time will pass. I forgot there was a specific quote that people would say to me over and over and over again that was meant to be encouraging, but was really frustrating because I was like, you have no idea what I'm going through right now. You have no idea, like the heaviness I feel, the guilt, the anger, the bitterness. There was so much that I felt during that period, that first period of grief, that first year, that it's like people wanted to be like encouraging, and I get that, and I appreciated the people that would call and show up and do all the things. Um, but it felt really heavy. It felt really lonely. It felt like nobody could understand, and I had very little emotional capacity for anything. I mean, my tolerance level too. So with emotional capacity, I really had like no space to be able to manage and call friends and be like, I tried my best to be there for people, but I couldn't handle my own grief and my own stuff and try to be there for other people. And I'm grateful for my friends that stuck by me because they knew, they would ask me, I was like, do you have space today? And do you have, time for me to share and X, Y, and Z. They checked in on me first so that I can check in on myself and be like, do I have the emotional capacity for this? And the mental capacity, I mean, forget it. Like my brain was so like, I was like, oh my God, decision fatigue. I couldn't make like little decisions. It was wild. And I really had no space. I recall when I was living in Georgia, meeting new friends and wanting to connect with them and grow with them. And those initial friendships, it's like getting to know you and like those conversations. I had no emotional capacity for that. I had no mental capacity to try to schedule things and to find, I just couldn't, especially because, three whole kids and their whole schedules, work, the hubby, like it was just too much. And so I didn't have the mental and emotional capacity for those things. And, if you're in this period of heavy grieving, I pray that you're able to be kind to yourself. I think that was the only thing I could do for myself that helps when it came to my emotions, that I had to be compassionate towards myself. I had to be kind towards myself. Like, it's okay, Anna. This too shall pass, this feeling. But in this moment, it's okay that you feel this heaviness. It's okay that you're missing your mom, that every single month at that last week of the month that would approach the 28th, it was a week where I could do nothing else but the basics. It's okay that, little memories. I remember I was driving and I saw what seems like a daughter and a mom walking in the park holding hands. And it was an older woman. She looked like she was in her 80s. And, the woman, the daughter looked like she was in her 40s, whatever. And that just triggered me. I'm just crying now on my way to wherever I was going, driving, crying, and then feeling angry because I no longer have that, and like all these different things, that it's okay. And then this moment now that just changed. You had a whole plan to drive somewhere and do X, Y, and Z, but now you're crying. And instead of getting mad at myself for like, here you go, now you're crying, why can't you get it together, and having that negative self-talk, that I was just like, that's okay. Today, this is what I got. And that shifted. Now I ain't got it. I do not have it. And that's okay. Um, so through that period of time, um, there were a lot of things that helped that I didn't realize. I talked about it last week. It was the basics that God has shown me. One of them was going to the gym. It was finding an active activity, right? A physical activity that that you enjoy, because there's a power in moving your body, right? That I started going to the gym, and I started taking this medication because I did want to lose weight. I wanted to take care of my health, but also I was really doing it for the health of things and not, now I'm sitting here and I'm cute. Okay, I'm cute. 45 pounds down, but I wasn't doing it to be cute. I started off because I was like, I do not want to have diabetes. I do not want to be inflamed. I do not, I was doing it for the health of things. And then the physical activity, I was doing it for my mental health. There was such a power in physical activity. And so for me, doing something physical, going to Hot Works, I went to the gym every single day. And it was also about space for myself. I would drive every morning. I think I was going to the gym at 4:30 a.m. and I would drive, just tears, crying every single day on my way to the gym. Going to the gym, crying at the gym. I remember there was one day I heard a worship song and it was in Spanish. Child, it took me out. I was in this sauna and thank God I was by myself. There was nobody in the gym. And I was just on my mat crying, bawling my eyes out. So there was so much healing in that, right? That going to the gym was a place where it was really about my mental health and filling up my cup and being able to have that time and being intentional about making space for yourself to grieve, And so that was one thing I did. Another thing I did that I started I started before my mom passed actually, but I have a mental health coach and it's through my job. And she's amazing. She's been with me for a while, like 2 years, a lot has happened. And so I started seeing a mental health coach weekly. And so a mental health coach differs from a therapist because a mental health coach is focused on forward movement, the present and the future, right? So we're talking about goals. That's actually what I do in my mental in my full-time job. I'm a mental health coach. And so we focus on the right now. Y'all, I still didn't figure out sorry. The camera piece. Am I looking at the right one? We gonna get it together. But the mental health coach. So what we do and what my coach did for me is like focus on the right now. Okay, so you're overwhelmed and what are the steps and what goals you have from this week to next week and really holding you accountable and that type of stuff. Whereas a therapist is diagnosing. A therapist is spending a good amount of time allowing you to process and helping you to unravel the yarn in your mind that may be related to your past. A lot of exploring the past and all these different things. Whereas coaching is very like, it's a bit quicker. Sessions are shorter because you're focused on like, okay, what are we going to do? They're action oriented. So if you just think therapy, diagnosing the past, and they can focus on the present and the future, but coaching is really about the present and the future. So I had a mental health coach. I later added a therapist to my team. So I basically created this team for myself of people that were going to support me. So I had a mental health coach and I had a therapist. And so it was important for me to have that accountability of, what are you going to do? Okay, you're going to find joy in the little things, or reestablishing certain routine and keeping up with a routine and that kind of thing. So it was so important for me to have that space to keep me accountable to keep moving forward because I felt stuck. My therapist helped me in unpacking a lot of the stuff connected to my mom, obviously, that kind of came up when she passed. And then I had people that really spoke truth. I mean, I have these people anyways, spoke truth that may have been hurtful, people that allowed me to just be. And truth that was hurtful at that time was, girl, sit down somewhere and let us love you. Because I do too much and feel like it's hard for me sometimes to just allow people to love me. Like I always feel like, well, this has to be reciprocal. And sometimes friendships and relationships are not reciprocal. There's a time and a period where you may be pouring and the other person may just be receiving, or, maybe a 70-30. It varies on people's seasons. And that's where communication comes in. And so it was really me allowing people to just love me and be there. And me calling people like, do you have space right now? I'm crying and I miss my mom and I can't get it together. So having these support systems in place really helped me to just move forward and process and grieve and take care of myself. And moving forward, to fast forwarding to now, where I still have the same people in my life. And now I had a conversation with my mental health coach, and it was so amazing to be like, focusing on joy. And so if you are watching uh the visual of the podcast, you can see I have some color. And my closet, I don't know what accent that was. My closet is black, white, and gray. Okay. I I just like it. It just makes sense. Like, black is beautiful. Like, like, who needs color? That just takes too much brain power too to put stuff together. But anyways, I felt like God was telling me to put on color today. And really, oh, there's so much to unpack with this as well. But connected to joy is that finding joy in the little things. And, I found joy in, putting on color today, and showing up, um, putting a little powder, even though I got the tissue, because, I was bawling last week. So I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna be crying again. So I don't know what the point of makeup is. But putting on a little bit of powder and putting on color and feeling joy again and moving towards joy, because I was such a joyful person before. Like, I can't even describe. Like, I felt like I exuded joy. I was joy. Like, and it didn't quite feel that for some time. And if I'm being honest right now, I mean, my joy comes from the Lord. But those spurts of times where you just feel this joy on a different level, I can't say, I don't know, I can't say that I've really like felt it. I feel like happy and and so finding my joy in God again, and finding my joy in life again, and living again, intentionally living. And my mom, oh honey, that lady was a joy. I was gonna speak in Spanish. I'm gonna say it in Spanish anyways. Mi mamá vivía con gusto y alegría, okay? And so I want to vivir con gusto y alegría too. I don't know how to translate that, but it's a whole lot of joy and gusto, okay? Google it. I don't know. Um, so that is what I want to do. I want to live um con gusto y alegría, and I want to do that again. I want to live with joy again. And so I'm taking steps there. That is where I am now. I feel like there's still so much more to unpack, and we are definitely going to be able to do that next week. I did not plan on continuing these life updates, but I feel like, you know, this is helping me. And I hope that it's also helping someone else that's going through a hard time, that the hard times will not last, that you are resilient, you are brilliant, and you are going to get through this, and you are not alone. I'm here for you. Our community is here for you. Like, I want people to know that they're not alone, because it's a heavy feeling. If you allow that thought of feeling like you are on your own and alone in this journey, or in a dark place, in a dark season, it's such a dangerous place. And so my goal and my hope is that you don't feel that it's a space where you feel like you are supported. Um, but I think that's it for this week. I will I will share more next week, because should I leave a cliffhanger? One of the things that I dealt with last year as well while grieving, because grieving looks differently. I didn't touch on that, but grieving looks differently. You're not just grieving the loss of a loved one, you can also be grieving where you are in life. And at the time that I lost my mom, we were living in Georgia. I now live in Texas. So next week, I will talk about that journey of living in Georgia. God called us from Massachusetts to Georgia, and then called us to Texas. How did we get here? Stay tuned. Stay tuned. I will talk about that faith journey next week. I'll talk about grief in different areas. And for me, being in Georgia, knowing that that time was done and that season was done was very difficult, coupled with losing my mom and all the other things. It felt almost impossible, like a place that it was kind of scary to be in that place. And so next week I'll talk more about that faith journey of our move from Georgia to Texas. I love y'all. Thanks for tuning in. Really quick, y'all, do the likes. If you're on YouTube, watching on YouTube, like, subscribe. Please, if you're on the actual podcast, go ahead, leave a review, 5 stars, so people can find us, so we can get up there and, we can get our listenership up and build our community and get more like-minded people in this space, so that we can build our little community. I love y'all. I'll see y'all next week. Bye.